Life is messy, our minds are messy, success is blinking messy. Join me, Charlotte Hopkins, on the Gloriously Messy Me podcast, where I'm opening up hearts, minds, and souls to navigate life's unique messiness. Exploring identity, culture, belonging, and success, I, along with some phenomenal special guests, will be sharing my own experiences, as well as impactful theories and top tips on how I help people unleash their incredible potential to take courageous action and build a life that they love. Okay, let's get on to today's episode. This is the next episode of the Gloriously Messy Me podcast. And honestly, every guest I've had, I've literally said I'm like a bottle of pop. But this person in particular, I have known for the longest. She has been on the wobbliest journey of success with me. And mainly because I cause havoc when I sit in her chair. So today, I have the amazing Terri with me, who is my hairdresser. Now, some of you might be thinking, why has she got her hairdresser on a series where the last few episodes we've had her therapist and her coach? Well, Terri has been probably a bigger support than I think she realizes. And yes, she does amazing hair, and it doesn't matter what style I've had. And there's been plenty over the last 10 years. But the conversations we've had and some of the things that I'll be sharing today that she's kind of just said to me has absolutely made a massive impact in the success that I've had in the last few years. So before I ramble on for yet another 25 minutes, let me get Terri to introduce herself first. Hello.
Oh, that was a lovely little introduction already. I'm dying to know these things that I've said to you that have made an impact.
I can feel the nervousness already. She's thinking, what have I said?
Because if anyone's gonna rambles on, it's definitely me as well. So between us, we make a right pair. But yeah, really, really, really nice that you asked me to be on this podcast. It's the first time I've ever been asked to be on a podcast. I know. Maybe I'll get onto a hairdressing industry one at some point in the future. But yeah, like you said, some people are probably thinking, what the hell is a hairdresser doing on here? But I do like to think that us hairdressers are kind of like unofficial therapists, really, because we do have you in our chair for hours on end. And like you said, you've been sitting in my chair for well over a decade now. So we have kind of followed each other through. Yeah.
All right, a decade.
So yes, my name is Terri Nagin. I am a hairdresser. I am a salon owner. I've had my salon for 14 years now. I'm also a brand ambassador for a large UK hair company. I'm an educator. Me and Charlotte met through education. I'm a mum of 2 boys, and I'm a wife. And yeah, that's me.
Yay. Oh, and when you said 14 years, it makes me realize that I've actually been coming to you for 14 years then, which
Yes.
is even more scary.
Yes, I know.
A decade and a half, nearly.
I know.
We've clearly not aged
Not
anymore.
at all. We look exactly the same.
We do, with different hair. Well, I have had lots of hair. Yeah, so I think it's been, for me, we started back in university doing our teacher training. That's where we met.
Yes.
And I think it's fair to say so much has changed for us in those 15 years. I think it was 15 years ago. So it was just as you were opening the salon, wasn't it?
That's right, yeah.
Did your teacher training. And one of the things that I have always found interesting is the conversations that you have actually within the hair salon. And like just sitting in a hair salon, you can hear other stylists having like sometimes really personal questions and conversations with, like it always amazes me the information you guys get, just because I guess you're there. For me, I am and have been at your salon probably, give or take a few years, every 6 to 8 weeks, 2 hours at a time, every 6 to 8 weeks. So yeah, I think maybe at times I might have seen you more than my parents.
I know. And I think that's why people do open up to us, because number one, we are quite a large part of each other's lives. Like Reese always laughs at me because I don't call people my clients. I'm like, my friend.
Yeah.
Like, who? I'm like, well, she's my client, but she's my friend. But we don't know anyone else. Like usually people that you become friends with are kind of part of your extended family, or you know each other in other situations, but because it's kept solely to the salon, it's like we know each other well, but we're really impartial because we don't know anyone else personally
Yeah.
within your sphere. So you can have really honest conversations and ask us opinions, and we wouldn't have any bias
Yeah. Yeah.
either way because we don't know anyone else. We only know
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I guess. And I think it just feels really non-threatening. So I think
Yes.
there's just that part of you can share anything and everything. And don't worry, Mem, I haven't been gossiping about you, but you could share anything, couldn't you? And you
Yeah.
wouldn't really know. There's unlikely to have those connections, although that sometimes does happen, I guess, because within the
Yeah.
community, and I'm sure there's plenty of clients who've talked about other clients. They probably could have got themselves in trouble. And I think for me, there was definitely, I mean, I wonder whether maybe we were friends before as a client, and I definitely would call you a friend now,
Yeah.
even though I do just see you really in that
It's a
environment.
salon, yeah.
Yeah.
But honestly, that's the only place I see any of my friends as well, because life is just busy. So I
Yeah. And I
always think
like,
myself quite lucky there. It's like, you know, in maintaining friendships, I can just be like, I'll see you in the salon, that's fine.
yeah, we do like her for other reasons than just her hairstyling talent, mind. I just want to point that out. She's a genuinely lovely person too. That's not just how she makes friends. Yeah, and I guess for me, that was like part of the messiness of the journey that I've been on. And you will have seen me go from job to job,
Yes.
and you will have seen me have, children who've grown up, and
Yes.
you've seen my son go from sitting in the chair
Oh,
happily
his
to
little quills cat.
yeah, to now, paying £8, by the way, for a bottle of shampoo, which, at the age of 50 is quite a good expense to put your pocket money in.
Yeah.
So his curls are nicely defined. So you've definitely educated my son. But we've kind of seen lots of milestones. And for me, the business has been one of the consistent things. So tell us a little bit more about your kind of success journey with the salon, because you've got a really successful salon.
Oh,
And
thanks.
you've got, you haven't been taking on new clients for years now. So what clearly you're very good at is holding on to customers as well. So tell us a little bit more about your success journey there.
Yeah, so it was always one of my strengths when I was in an employed salon, being able to retain clients. I did always love it, and I loved working in a salon. Um, but I've always been quite an ambitious person, and that's how I ended up meeting you, because I did think I couldn't just be a stylist my whole life. As much as like, the reason I went into hairdressing is because I love it. So I've always been, whilst I'm ambitious, I'm always driven by passion. So I
Yeah.
always wanted to do something that I enjoy doing. Um, so I thought I would become an assessor for hairdressing, and so I went into the degree to do teaching. And whilst I was in the job assessing, I desperately missed being behind the chair. I desperately missed being with those clients and having those relationships. So that's when I opened the salon. So yeah, at the time, this was 2009, so we just had the big crash. And salons were closing left, right and centre. And I remember my boss at the time saying, "Are you mad? You must be mad. Like, we are losing learners left, right and centre because salons are closing and you're going to open
Yeah.
one. Are you crazy?" But I'd always believed in my ability, in my hairdressing ability. So I was 23 at the time, and not driven by the passion, and driven by wanting to do well, but not necessarily make huge amounts of money. I thought, I can do this. I was 23, I didn't have a mortgage, I didn't have kids, I wasn't married. I was like, what's the worst that could happen? I'll just move back home.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So I opened the salon with a business partner, because I do think I probably would have been less inclined to do it if I didn't have a business partner going in.
Okay.
So we opened that together, and yeah, that worked really well. For the good few years, we wanted to train our own staff, which we did. Yeah, we were really successful. And then we both had children, we both got married, and our focus has probably kind of changed slightly with the two of us. And
Yeah.
whereas I was always wanting to kind of push on and do more and this was when, balayage was becoming big, and I wanted to really sort of like get stuck into that and new techniques. And so we decided I'd buy out my business partner, just because, our priorities had changed. And so I started going it alone. And that was when, I was really able to take control of the salon how I wanted it to be. I was never running ideas past anyone else. It was like, right, I can do this myself now. And that was a real turning point for me. And so from there, I then thought, what else can I do? So I decided to go for what we call in our industry an artistic team, which is where you get to travel and educate and work on stage shows and that kind of thing with the brand that I work with. So they hold a competition every 2 years where you can get onto this team, and I entered the competition and I got onto the team, and I've since been employed by them as an ambassador. So I do lots of education, I do lots of traveling, lots of stage work. And from there, because I kind of utilized social media into that, my Instagram grew. I took on lots of clients. I started posting the work that I like to do. And from there, it's just gone from strength to strength. I attracted stylists to the salon that, are fantastic. They're all really fantastic at what they do. So we've been able to grow this real sort of great salon with incredible stylists. And so it's probably been 4 years since I've taken on any new clients. Which works great for me because, like you said, it means I'm busy all the time. But because I get to do the creative work outside of the salon, I'm always doing new things. I'm always doing models. I'm always doing, so I get to do the creative things as well as keeping my clients. And because all my clients are friends now, I don't think I can let any of them go.
That's why we're friends.
This is stuck with me forever.
And what you've missed out in there is that COVID happened, and the salon continued to, yes, there was obviously struggles, and I'm not taken away, because I remember, it was hard, but even through that, I think it showed testament to, the talent. For one, I think anybody can have passion, but you have to have some talent. But anybody can have talent, and if you haven't got the passion behind it, it doesn't mean a thing either. But you were able to really harness that and use that, I think, probably intuition as well, to guide the salon through some really tough times.
They really put it on us, didn't they? We were closed in the initial lockdown for 4 months, which is a long time.
That's a long amount of roots for us to wait to have retouched. I'm just saying.
Yes, but I think equally, it did kind of show our clients how valuable we were to them, because people were going out of their minds thinking, oh my God, I need to have my hair done. But just in terms of getting through that whole thing, I've always been very proactive. I've always been well organized, and I've always been that way inclined. So I was very much, I was, first in there with, do people want to buy vouchers? Use when they come back, and because I have grown such a community within the salon, all my clients were like, I'll still pay you, I'll do, and government support did come in as well. And so it did work out really well, but it did mean that, once we reopened, we all just worked our socks off, day in, day out, working all the hours to get through all of the backlog of clients.
Definitely. And I think one of the things you've just highlighted there really is how important people's hair is to them. And literally the first 2 years of launching Kimby, I literally made so little money that we as a family were really struggling. And I remember Gareth saying to me, my husband saying a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about it, and he was saying that literally sometimes it was like, do I pay petrol or do we buy food? We literally had no money yet every 6 months, which I tend to come every 6 to 8 weeks, always have, and I just couldn't afford it. I still knew that I had to have my hair done, and it's the journey that I've been on within that roller coaster, and it's been really messy, but the one thing is my hair's always been on point. And it's changed and it's adapted, and you know, those who will have known me from a couple of years ago, I went copper during COVID, and you know, I go into Terri and I'm sure she's every single time thinking, oh, what are we doing now? And I think I literally went in and was like, no, we're going to keep it the same for at least 2 years, which was really good for me. But
well, I think it was just after you got married was when I first started doing your hair, wasn't it?
yes, yeah.
Yes.
And I had that terrible blonde. It was like
Yeah.
Barbie's old hair that's been raggedy for about 3 years because nobody's ever looked after Barbie's hair. It was that like yellow. Oh, it really was. It was not almost like the yellow of my chair. It was not good
But
at
it
all.
was slightly longer than you'd usually wear it as well, I think, wasn't it? Because you wore it up for your wedding, didn't you?
Yeah, which I'd always been pixie. So my kind
Yeah.
of like identity had been with a short pixie crop, and that had changed from colors. So colors I've always been adventurous with, but there was something in my 20s that I just clicked with this pixie crop and decided to grow it out for my wedding and then wear it up, which makes no sense to me. And I had this like random fringe thing that in the end I had to pin off my face. So literally I grew it for no reason whatsoever. And then I dyed it black. Didn't mean to dye it black. And I think at that point, my husband, who was my new husband at the time, said, I think you need to find a new stylist. And I just knew exactly who it was going to be. And I haven't changed since. So
No, I know.
like you are, bar my husband, the longest relationship.
I think that at the end of this podcast, you're going to have to put up a selection of photos of all your different hairstyles over the years, because people are going to be listening, thinking, I wonder what she did look like.
That's a really good idea.
Little collage.
Yeah, and ironically, the photo on the front of the podcast artwork, I've got copper hair still because I had the photo done with copper hair. So yeah, if you don't know what I look like with blonde hair, you just need to come onto YouTube and you'll be able to see.
Yeah.
Just saying.
But yes, I think I've seen you blonde crop, brown crop, copper bob, blonde bob. I don't think we've ever done brown bob, but I think we've done balayage bob, so darker root, and
I grew it
in between.
It was long as well.
So quite long. Yeah.
That was probably the most patient I've ever been with my hair.
Yeah.
And then I lasted about 9 months, I think. And then I went, take me back up.
Yes.
And take me copper. So we went for a complete and utter change. Although I think I might have been longer actually copper. Anyhow, I guess what was really interesting for me is during all of that time, you will have seen me really struggling with Kimby, and then obviously things have just grown significantly. And I'm sure if we were to look at the book, you would see that's probably the more frequent I've come in as well. It's definitely the thing that I always allocate money for, always, each month, always there. And one of the things that I remember, we were sat chatting and you were asking like how things were going in business. And there was a couple of parts where I was like, yeah, it's okay. And it really wasn't. And then I remember you saying to me, did you just call yourself like the ultimate coach? Because you just know everything about everything. And it was just such a flyaway comment, I think, from, maybe I was wrong. Maybe you're going to tell me, no, that was super intentional.
It was super intentional.
Absolutely focus the mind. And it was one of the things that will always stick with me, because at that point, I realized that what I was projecting out about what the business did was absolutely messy. There was no glorious in it. It was just messy. I didn't know what I did. And yes, I had all of these kind of experiences and expertise, but I didn't focus the mind at all. So just that little comment from you, whilst you were even have no idea what even color you were doing my hair at the time, but that made such an impact on where I am now in terms of like unpicking that messiness.
Yeah. Because I'm quite a I'm a very methodical person.
Yeah.
I'm very, everything has an order and everything has a structure, and that's how I educate as well when I'm teaching courses. And yeah, it's funny that we get on so well, because you are just like the polar opposite of how my brain works and how your brain works. It couldn't be more different, because you do, but that then inspires me as well, because you come in and you just you know, I can say one little thing about, oh, I was thinking about doing this, and you say, and you could do this, and you could do that, and you could add this, and you could add that, and you could do this together. And and so we kind of, we've obviously just both met somewhere
Yeah.
in the middle. Yeah, so
Yeah.
yeah, every time that you have come in, it has always been, I do
I'll
this
do
and
a
I do
wing.
that, and I yeah, and I'm doing this and I'm doing that, and I've started this business, but I'm still working on this, and
Yeah.
I'm still picking up these contracts, but I'm concentrating on this
Yeah.
next one.
It is. And that's the thing. I think that's where that embrace a mess, because your success is totally within the messiness. And as I forge through with the, you know, the podcast and what's coming next for the podcast and like the manifesto and all of this different things, I can see where it all clicks in together. And whereas previously I would have really struggled with that identity of being messy, I've totally embraced it and see it as that strength, because
Yeah,
often the people I work with come from really good expertise. They've been doing their job for a really long time. And not that I think for any 1 minute there was stagnation in what you were doing, but lots of people I work with have this kind of stagnation of, I don't really know what to do next. I don't know what to do. Like, how do I use this talent and propel it into something so much more that leaves this kind of legacy? And
yeah,
that's like part of my magic, and that's part of what I love
yeah.
to do. But sometimes I get overexcited. Overexcited. What's those dogs that are like super excitable? That's me. A Jack Russell, not a Jack Russell, but I can't think what they're called. But yeah, and there was something there that you just, and there was a couple of things afterwards where, you know, I'd come in and I would show you photos of like a copper, long flowing, full fringed hairstyle and say, I really like this. And then I really like this. And that opposite photo would be like a bright pink, a bright white copper, not bright white copper, a bright white pixie crop. And you'd be like, well, I can't do both. And I was like, well, why can't I do both? Obviously, I do know I can't do both those hairstyles. That's kind of always been my mentality of, why can't I do both? But doing all of it all together even got to the point where it confused me, and I just didn't know what I wanted to do or what I needed to do. And it was at the beginning of taking on some contracts where we were starting to see stability, and that stability gives you choices, I think, doesn't it? It allows you to then think, what's the next step? And just having those conversations with you and around what success meant has been like a really important part of giving me the safe breathing space to think, okay, what actually is it that I want to do? Just because I can do it doesn't mean that I have to do it.
Yeah.
So what then does success, or how has success changed for you over the kind of, I guess maybe the last few years, but over the last decade? What and how have children and family and having a business
Yeah, so
changed
yeah,
your
that
viewpoint of
definitely
success?
does change.
Mm.
Definitely does change things, absolutely. Um, I mean, growing up, and when I first started out in the hairdressing industry, I never thought about money. I never thought about, you know, when I was in school, I was never like, I definitely want to go to university. I want to do law or medicine, or I was never, you know, have to do that because that will give me a good standard of living and that will pay for this, that, and the other. It just never ever crossed my mind. I was always more, I want to do what makes me happy. I want to do what I enjoy doing. And I didn't particularly enjoy school anyway. So any opportunity to leave was
Yeah.
was well, I was going to take it. Um,
Mm.
I had hairdressers in the family. My auntie was a hairdresser, so it seemed like something that, you know, I'd always enjoyed doing my own hair. Very difficult to manage hair. I always did quite well with it, so it was something that I'd always, you know, kind of been interested in. I remember people saying to me in school, "Oh, but you did well in your GCSEs. Are you going to stay on now?" Like as if you
Yeah.
could only do hairdressing because you were dropping out because you were a
Yeah.
bit sick.
Yes.
Um, so and obviously I was like, no, I enjoy hairdressing. I've started working in a salon on weekends. I really enjoy it. That's what I want to do. That's what I'm going to follow. So it's not until you kind of get that little bit old and you think, oh, I want to buy a house.
Yeah.
I want to get married. I want to have children. You know, I kind of want to be successful. I need to be a bit more successful in terms of money
Yeah.
in order to have these things that I want. And whilst, you know, some positions within hairdressing are well paid. It's quite well known within the industry that, you know, when you're starting out, when you're a younger stylist and when you're working for a salon, it's not huge amounts of money, not enough that I wanted anyway to get on in life. So that was when I started looking outside of just what I was passionate about. But really, I never thought I'm gonna have to leave the industry, or it was always, no, I love this, I love what I do. How can I earn more money? So how can I enjoy it? So success kind of came about, how can I make my chosen career, my industry, work for me, rather than, oh, let's just go to that job because it pays more money, or let's just go to that job. So it's always been kind of making sure the job works for me rather than me working for the job.
And isn't that so much more important? So I think having, like you said, surrounded by people that you enjoy spending time with, a team that you enjoy spending time with, that is so much more important than a couple of £100 extra in your bank account.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't know if that's where, where minds, entrepreneurial minds are different. I didn't think, okay, well, I'll get a job as an assessor because that's a bit more money. And then I could become a manager of an assessing team. That's a bit more money. And then I could become an internal verifier, and that's a bit more. And then an external verifier. And then maybe I could, I didn't think, right, okay, well, if I want money, this is the way that I'm going to have to go about it. It was very much like, I thought about doing that and then thought, no, actually, that's not for me. So how can I make this work for what I want? And having your hair done is not cheap. So there is money in the industry. It's not. If you've got a talent and you're good at it, it's a trade, and there's money to be made. So it's definitely about. And I think across industries, people are starting to figure that out now, and especially I think since COVID as well, where people have been able to be at home, be more present with their families. And I saw a huge shift in the hairdressing industry. I'd already started doing that anyway, because like I said, from a young age, I thought, right, how can I make this work for me? How can I develop this career? What can I do that means that it works for what I want? And I still now get people like, you don't work weekends, you're a hairdresser, you don't work weekends. Like, it's like a shock to the system when people hear that. But it's like, well, there's no written law that says every hairdresser has to be available to you on a Saturday. If I work these days and they're the only days that I choose to work, if you can't make it, then fine, I'm not the stylist for you.
And we fit in though. So like Friday afternoon, I will take the afternoon off and I will be in the hair salon because Terri doesn't work Saturdays. But I think that's the right thing, and it's the way it should be, really, for lots of people. And I think lots of people do a kind of 9 to 5 Monday to Friday, and that's because that's the way that it should, or they think that's the only way that it needs to be done. And I think not enough people look outside of their abilities to see how they can monetize that as well. There's definitely ways that we can provide flex in our finances as much as our time.
Yeah, definitely. Because, it doesn't just have to be a trade. Anyone who has got a skilled job, a skilled career, they have got a talent. They have got knowledge that other people don't have, that they want. So if your Monday to Friday is not suiting your lifestyle, but there doesn't seem to be any other options, there is always options.
There's always options.
Look at what you can offer. Look at your talent, your skill set, your experience, even things that you've overcome, challenge. There's always something there that other people want. They want to know, they want to hear, they want to learn. And just, that's what you need to do, is get yourself an ultimate coach who can help you harness that. Make your career work for you, rather than you just working for your career.
It's that cliche, isn't it? Like dare to dream. But I'm all about creating like impact and influence, but success on our own terms. So for those people, like, I don't really work with that many people who are ambitious to make 7 figures. That's not because I won't attract those people, because I don't have ambitions to make 7 figures. And when I talk to lots of people, they're like, really? You don't want 7 figures? do you know what? If I made 7 figures, I wouldn't be turning it down, just saying. But actually, no, for me, it's about flexibility of time. It's the ability to come and go and do work that I want to do, not choose or kind of have to do. And I think so many people just go another year, 2 years, 3 years, and then before you know it, you're 14 years in the same salon. Like 14 years of the same, this like, I've never once contemplated moving elsewhere. I'll just say that's because it's great customer service and great quality work. But the reality is that we will think about certain things only when we're not happy.
Yeah.
And so many people aren't happy, but they're not unhappy. So therefore, they kind of just go day by day by day without ever being really conscious in their life. And I think that's the difference that I see with those people that are surrounded by who've created success on their own terms. They haven't just kind of wandered or sleptwalk into life. They've been really conscious about it. And you've described your kind of conscious journey, I guess, in creating success that meant that you had a lifestyle that worked for you and your family.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think that's the key there, isn't it? It's being conscious of where you are, of where you want to be, and what you want your future to look like.
Yeah.
And being this kind of sort of organized, forward planning person that I am, I suppose, like, that kind of helps as well, because I'm always looking, oh, well, hang on a minute, how long am I going to do this for? And where will I be if I continue to do this? And so, with having children and knowing that I'd want to take time off and all of those things, like, well, hang on a minute, if I'm in an employed position as an employed stylist, I'm just going to get statutory maternity pay, and I won't be able to be flexible. And will I just have to come back full time, or will they make me work late nights if I, so all of those things I've always asked myself, now that I've had children and I am married, now it's the other, the things that I'm looking for into the future is, when do I want to retire? When do I want to pay my mortgage off? All of those things. But I've never been sort of like the short term, I want a Range Rover, or I want to have holidays to Dubai, or LA, or what have I've never had those. The success has always been those long-term goals for me, and without compromising time with my children, and, like you said, flexibility. So yes, I could work more hours, yes, I could work weekends. My children and my husband go and play football on weekends, and I go along with them. It's kind of, if you can't beat them, join them. But I could quite easily work a Saturday now. I could quite easily pick up my children in full-time school, so I could work more. I could get a cleaner instead and work more. But I like to be home. I like to pick up my children from school. I like to do all of those things. So it's just, the success for me is that flexibility and that time, not that chasing the money day in, day out.
Yeah. And I think I'm exactly the same. And I think despite the journey being very different and definitely not quite as methodical, that desire to live on your own terms is really, really strong. Whether it's blonde hair, whether it's copper hair, currently we're on the same kind of length. Brown or short, we probably do the same thing. But I think that's just the beauty of it. And I just knew that when we were doing this series, I had to talk to you, because your success journey has just been really inspiring, and you can see that forward thinking has really paid off, and you can see that continuous forward thinking really pays off. And it's just been an absolute pleasure for you to share with me that journey. So thank you so much for coming on. It's been
thank you for having me.
I've loved it, and I love the fact that we're the first podcast. Yay!
I know, I've said it all now, though. There's no point me going on anything else. It's like,
well, there is that. You don't need anybody else. Just Charlotte's is fine. If people want to kind of check you out, though, where can they find you on socials? Because I love stalking your socials.
Oh, thank you so much. You say socials like I use multiple sites. I only use Instagram. I think
very good on Instagram.
I think, visual, hairdresser. So Instagram has always been my my page of choice. Twitter. I don't think I've ever joined Twitter before in my life. And I think I'm a bit old for TikTok now. I don't know. I think I've missed that.
I bet there's plenty of people listening going, you'd make a killing. But yeah, I think
so you can find,
Instagram's perfect.
So yeah, Terri Nagin here on Instagram. That's where you can find me. I will put this out on my channel so that if any hairdressers want to listen to, because I do bang on about this all the time with other hairdressers about, you know, being self-employed and working for yourself and making your career work for you. So I will put this out on my channels for any hairdressers who are watching, and my DMs are always open to anyone to message me if they want some advice or help or guidance. But yeah, for any non-hairdressers, then best to slide into your DMs for that, I guess.
Yeah, I just think
ultimate coaches, because I've been having, you know, unsolicited advice for like 14 years to help me get where I am from
even though she didn't want it.
Be like, that's a good idea. I'll ask
you off track a few times.
She'll tell me. Charlotte, is this doable?
I've definitely nudged you off track, I think, a few times too. That methodical plan.
Yeah.
Why don't you do this instead?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much.
Not nudging me off track. It's, you know, pushing me forward as a good coach always does.
You will do it. You will. Brilliant. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to everyone who's listening as well. Take care. Bye.
Bye.